Hey people, Happy New Year. I've just been stuffing around with a bit of my kit and gear, getting ready for some big fishing missions over summer, but also hunting. Speaking of which, I am starting off this year with a much fuller freezer. If you keep watching, you'll find out why. But in the meantime, folks, can't say it enough. The good times are natural. Happy days. Now, I've never really addressed it on the channel before, but I thought I'd just have a yarn about it. I switched vehicles, and it was a very mindful switching of vehicles, but to some it might not seem the obvious choice if you're getting into bushwork and harvesting particularly larger game animals like reds and sambar. But you know what? This Suzuki Jimny is one of the most positive choices I've ever made in my life, and it's something that's quite familiar to me because the first few vehicles I ever owned in my life were small cars. First one was a Suzuki Vitara, 92 model, and I love that car. It's also cheap as chips and broke down all the time, and I learned a lot about vehicles in the process. Ever since then, I got through the early stages of my hunting life with the Toyota Yaris. But you know what? It worked. Now, my main reasons for switching vehicles, it was economic. I wanted to go downsize. I wanted to get a smaller car because my Hilux, which served me very well for a long time, it had to go. Too many Ks on it, issues starting to crop up, and I wanted to sell it whilst it still had some value that was worth salvaging for someone else, and made the switch. Now look, there's no doubt about it, these Suzukis have a bit of a snazzy factor and they've become quite popular. I was waiting till the 4-door model came out because it actually had some reasonable size in the back that I could work with, you know, luggage and gear wise. That being said, still very constrained, and that's cool. It's a project. Now, the one major trip I have in mind, which I'm focusing on developing this car for, is going to Tasmania later in autumn. And I'm planning on harvesting heaps of critters there, doing a lot of fishing and all of that, but I also want to be able to camp out of the vehicle. And I'm going to have to play around with a few setups, but I've got the chance to play around with some setups over the next couple of months, February and March. Lots of New South Wales hunting, maybe a bit of Victorian hunting. The point is, I'll have a chance to put it through its paces before heading south to situations where weather's going to be more of a factor consistently, like lots and lots of rain, and still making do out of a small space. But I'm up for the challenge. I'm keen for it. Now, having just come back from Tasmania, really reinforced my decision to get a bull bar early on. Because small cars like this, it only just takes a wallaby and then you're going to start having dramas when you start hitting them, because if you go to places like Tassie and you're an outdoors person, which means you're travelling before lights up and coming home after lights down, the chances of hitting wildlife is 99 to 100%. And I have been there before, folks, and excesses on high car, yeah, no fun. Now, yes, people are free to ask whether, you know, weight's a consideration there, and sure, steel's heavier than alloy. But I'm not going to regret that when takes its first bump, if you know what I mean. I wanted to make that choice strong first off the ground. Anyway, I got this Raxar bull bar, and yeah, the price was right. It's rock solid, and it looks kind of sick too. So there's the ever-present question for the future, is how are you going to get camping gear and big game animals home from this kind of setup? That's still a bit of a puzzle. I've been plotting a few ideas involving using one of these luggage carriers that fits into your tow hitch. We'll see how that might work, but long term I think there's going to be a lot of space used on the roof. So obviously I've got to prioritise what I spend on the thing. The car's going to need some all-terrain tyres or something stronger reasonably quickly. I'm also very keen to get roof racks happening. And again, it's one of those things where I could buy something temporary and then replace it later, or I could just buy the right thing first up and once. I mean, so far, it hasn't been that much of a problem. I mean, I've brought a fallow deer home whole, and I've had a cut up red spike put in there, but it's still a little bit ghetto when you've just got a tarp and a dead animal lying next to you all the way into the front seat. You know what I mean? I want to do this more intelligently. So, rooftop, potentially, tow hitch, potentially, but also there's just the idea of getting a lot of camping gear on the roof, and then a much bigger esky inside the car, accompanied with the car fridge, which is already in there, and seeing how that works out into being able to butcher a lot out into the field, take most of it home that way, and you know, if there's something inconvenient like a set of antlers involved, I could probably just whack it on the roof. But if you've got points of view on that, folks, I would actually love to hear them. So the boat, it's a de Havilland topper. It's 11 foot, bit of an older boat, but still an aluminium one, and it's built rock solid. Before I got this and painted it all these duck hunting colours on it, because that is my large focus with this, I want to hunt ducks out of this. Long story short, it was red beforehand. So the name of this boat was given by a young gentleman named T-Ball, and the name of the boat is Red Rocket. I've heard it's bad luck to change the name of a boat, so therefore, irrespective of it being green, it is Red Rocket. So on the back we have a Mercury 5 horsepower, which has been very, very adequate in power and extremely good at fuel efficiency. And as you can see, look, I'm sitting there, occasionally a friend sits there, and there's room for gear. Not heaps of gear, but when it comes to things like estuary fishing, when it comes to some of the alpine lakes, tying this into hunting trips and the like, you know what, it's just enough, and I kind of like things which just cut it for what they are, or punch a bit above their weight. So if it seems like I'm trying to be minimalist here, that's because I probably am, but there's something about gear that punches above its weight and does enough. I like that. I like getting away with simple gear and equipment, things that aren't complicated or overly expensive for no reason. I'm just not a fan of that kind of shit at all. And so far, this works real well. I mean, the thing I like the most is that this boat is adequate for its task, but is not too big for it to be a challenge for the Jimny to tow. So, there's a patch of ground which I've had my eyes on for a while. About 3 and a bit years that I've been working on it. It's very rugged, very remote. Higher altitude stuff dropping right down into lower country. And I always knocked around in it because there was just enough deer sign in there to keep me interested. When I started putting cameras out there, started finding deer, but up until just the other day, I'd never even seen one in there. It was becoming very apparent to me that it was basically only male deer up there, bachelor mobs of 3 to 4 year old red stags, and occasional spikers. They were only in there until mid-January, basically the hottest time of the year. Now that's not normally when I hunt, but this pattern had been apparent for 3 years in a row. And so I wanted a slice of that. I spent too much time in that bush not pulling meat out, and I thought, well, okay, if it's going to be anything, I've got to go there for New Year's. It's kind of a bit of a non-negotiable I set myself last year, because it was late January last year when I worked this out, and I thought, well, okay, next Christmas, Boxing Day, or New Year's, just make that time there. It's got to be then, and also right after some hot weather, because I knew that hot weather was going to push these animals right up into this tight country, the sharp stuff. And even if these really sharp rocky gullies don't have the best aspect, they might even face a bit too much sun at times, they only get a very narrow window of sun. So I had this little window to exploit, so I headed up there and I did. This is classic. Wasn't predicted at all, but I started getting woken up because there was lightning. Big storm front hitting this way right from northwestern New South Wales. Bit of rain with it. I'm not concerned about the rain so much, but the wind and the lightning. Shit, it's 3 AM. So this is a good head start for the next day, but let's see what this storm does. I'm going to be in the car for the next hour or so, just watching the phone. Bit intense. This is nuts. I literally lay awake, just worrying about the wind and all of that, so I came inside the car, mainly because I thought branches could come down, and one just fucking came down. I mean, I looked above where I set my swag up, and it was alright, but just. Yeah, possible outcomes is I just need to be not trapped by any falling trees that might come down. Yeah, so I wasn't interested in this weather at all, and I ended up driving an hour and a half to the nearest town. It was cool to get there on daybreak though, just as that storm was rolling in. That was something to see. That was pretty awesome. Ended up bringing a heap of rain with it too. I'll back up here to get the gear. All from up there. There's a good drop. Bang! Well, 48 hours later, and actually hunting. No, that was good. It was actually a nice opportunity to travel a bit and see some old mates. That was fucking excellent. But it's time to hunt. Expectations, I never bring those with me on hunts. I bring ambitions, objectives. I'm just going to punch down to that same gully where I was initially going to have a look. I'll probably enter it the same way. It's the middle of the day, so it's not that whole 4 AM. I always say I'm going to do that. I'm just full of it. But no, midday, long days, middle of summer. It won't get dark till 9 o'clock. I don't want to be down there at 9 o'clock. But I'm going to be down there for a good while. I'm not in a crazy rush. I've got the wind on my side, so slow approach. Coming up here, we've got a really nice tall standing forest. Most of it's, there's stringy bark and peppermint in there. Both rough bark trees, but nice and tall. See here, as soon as you start to get to these patches where there's more acacia, the understory plants, it starts getting less crunchy. It's more protected, holds moisture a bit better. Actually hasn't been the easiest coming down. What's that? A lot of nettle and all of that. Don't sign up there, but first signs. Very, very old red deer shit. Interesting thing, they're only just started coming to fruit, these blackberries. I say coming to the fruit, it's the new fruits forming. It'll be a good month and a half off before they're black and berryish and delicious. Yeah. Red spike is up there. I fucking got him. I fucking got him. He's rolled down in there. I just heard the rocks. Be a bit chilled about it. He's rolling. Where's he getting up? Okay, so he's there. It's been 5 minutes. See, when he came tumbling down, I just saw him get up in the thick stuff just for a brief moment. All I saw was the two spikes, velvet spikes, whoop, up and down again, and there was continuous thrashing. There hasn't been any thrashing for the last couple of minutes, but I just feel if I walk into those bushes and he gets up, I'm going to be in the bushes. I'm not going to see him run off. I'm not going to have that field of view. I'm actually thinking of just walking over to the other side there, up, you know, amongst one of those rocks near a good rest, and then just to put eyes on with the glass. Little trot path, I came around those blackberries, and then I came all the way down, following them all the way through to the bottom of the creek. You can pick up the game trail again there, you can see there, game trail. And so I was just following the game trail. And then I got up to where that cross log is there. Now, full picture again. I've come down there, done that. He was up there. Well, between that bluff and these bushes here. He's just in between there. So he would have had a clue that I was coming down, although he wouldn't have smelt me because my wind was positive in my favour the whole time going up the gully. Oh, there's my red deer. Oh. Oh. I was only just getting a little bit worried. Just a little bit. And it's funny because I'm going over old ground. I've already looked here, but oh, I mean, hell, even right there you can barely see him. He's so camouflaged. Thank you, mate. You get a bit of a drag job on, and gravity's about to take care of the rest very quickly. And I'm going to let him, tumble right down to the bottom. Doesn't always feel like the most respectful thing to toss one down a hill, but it's less respectful to waste meat, so we'll get him down. To be honest, if he was any bigger, the carry out would just be such a pain. And it's been hot. Even today's been a cooler day. Bit eventful. That first night where the branch came down near my swag, it wasn't a branch, it was the top of a tree. It unsettled me. Big delays. But the logic and the plan that I'd applied to coming out here for this trip, it was all sound. And it's paid off. This is 3 years of scouting paying off. 12, 15 days over the last 3 years, in amongst other trips, in amongst hunting adjacent lands, all that kind of thing. This is the first red I've seen in here. But the sign was sound. They were all over the game cameras. Only ever males, and be spread out throughout these summer months. But often, like, mid-January, they were just disappearing from the cameras. They were gone. They were up here in the heat a lot, so I timed a lot of this with warm weather. Because I was getting interested in doing this kind of thing. It gets to late January and I just couldn't find the time. I'm like, well, next year, New Year's, I want to do it then. I needed meat. Summer's an excellent time to be hunting for meat. There's plenty on this one. It's a great way to kick off the year with full freezers. I've got plans to eat a lot of wild meat this year. I want that to be the cornerstone of my diet. And I'm not saying it makes me unfussy with animals. Like, I want to manage herds, don't get me wrong, but part of managing herds is just to shoot a lot of deer. So I don't mind coming out here and shooting the deers. It's been a long time since I've seen a red in the wild. This rut last gone, I didn't see a single animal. Not one single animal. There was sign though. It was just one of those head fuck. That's what it was. We worked really hard. I'd lost my confidence on the reds a little bit. Felt a bit slammed by that because I love the reds and I've devoted a huge part of the last decade of my life to trying to understand them, master them, and have them as a very regular annual contributor to my diet. I love the red deers. And I've got one. I'm very happy about that. I've dawdled this afternoon in terms of getting him sorted out because the flies have been bad. It has been warm. And now that the sun's over the crest of the hill, it's cool down here. Like I'm actually in where the creek normally is. Wouldn't leave this carcass in the creek when I'm done, of course. But I'd like to be cutting off legs, straps, neck meat, all that kind of stuff and placing it on the ground because the ground itself is very cool. Nourished by good, healthy, natural food and living good, healthy, natural lifestyles. Getting my good times natural. Folks, I hope you are too. Maximum respect. Thanks for watching. See you in the next one. Well, it's going to be a bit of a project. One leg already 2/3 of the way up the hill, past the nasty bit, so we'll do a slow trudge with this one. It's just wonderful to finally have this communion with this beautiful piece of land, to work to understand it, and now I get to take meat from it. My shoulders are sore. That's good. Anyway, happy days, folks. Good times. If you enjoyed this, folks, please consider subscribing and hitting that like button. So thanks very much for watching. I'm wishing you all full freezers. Have a great year of it, eh? Let's keep it real. Respect.